we're diving into a bit of a mystery.
Right. It's like he's almost intentionally avoiding the spotlight.
Yeah. Who is this guy? What made him?
Especially now when the US and China are...
If you had to pick one subject that is most talked about among artificial intelligence communities, media, and among tech bros, would be no doubt Deepseek R1. Groundbreaking large language model that supposedly came out of nowhere and crashed the US stock market and shocked the US AI industry. And the person behind all of this is a 40-year-old Liang Wenfeng. He's not a well-known person, especially in English-speaking world. We went through all materials in any form we could find on internet and made this podcast based on what we found. If you're interested to find out who this mysterious tech and finance genius is, you should definitely watch this podcast. Please like, comment, and share with others who might be interested in tech and finance. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a bit of a mystery, honestly. Liang Wenfeng. This name, you've probably heard it, he's making waves, big waves in AI.
Huge waves, yeah.
But if you ask, like, the average person on the street, tell me about Liang Wenfeng, I bet you they'd struggle. We've been digging through articles, interviews. There's even like a Wikipedia page, bare bones though it is.
Right. It's like he's almost intentionally avoiding the spotlight.
Yeah. And the more you try to find, the more curious it gets, you know? So that's kind of our mission here. We're going to go beyond just the headlines, beyond like, oh, he founded a company. Who is this guy? What made him? What took him from, well, we'll get to that, but like tiny village to global AI.
And what does that tell us, right? Like his whole story, what does that tell us about the future of AI? Especially now when the US and China are, well, you know, not exactly best buds on the tech front.
Yeah, the whole landscape is shifting for sure. Okay, so rewind all the way back. Liang Wenfeng, he starts in Milining. It's the small farming village in southern China.
Like we're talking barely a blip on the map, small.
Basically. Try searching for it online, good luck. Especially in English. It's like a digital ghost town.
Which is crazy, right? Because now he's leading Deepseek, this company that's basically giving Silicon Valley a heart attack, or at least a serious jolt.
Yeah, think about it. Rural obscurity to, what, tech, titan. That alone is a story. Makes you wonder, what was that childhood like? What got him interested in tech in the first place?
Barely anything out there. It's really intriguing. And we know he didn't take that typical path, you know, the one a lot of these quant fund guys take. Overseas education, physics degree, math, all that.
He stayed put, got his degree in artificial intelligence from Zhejiang University, Electrical Engineering Department.
Interesting, huh? Shows maybe a different way of thinking, maybe even a sense of, I don't know, loyalty. Building something at home, not chasing the Silicon Valley dream.
And he does it fast. We're talking 2008, the world's economy is imploding, and this 23-year-old kid co-founds a hedge fund.
With his classmates even. High flyer, they called it. Bold move.
And not just any hedge fund. They were using AI, math, all this stuff to make investment decisions. Way ahead of the curve, especially in China back then.
Super unconventional, yeah. There's this rumor, actually, that around that same time, he was invited to join DJI, the drone company, by Wang Tao himself.
No kidding. Imagine if he'd said yes. Would we even be talking about him today in terms of AI?
Makes you think. Maybe there's a theme here, drawn to things with massive potential, drones, AI, even when they're still kind of on the fringe, you know?
Well, he's stuck with High Flyer, and wow, they took off. By 2019, they were managing, what, over 10 billion yuan? That's not luck, that's skill.
And vision, ties of it. There's this detail that always stuck with me. Liang Wenfeng, he wrote the preface for the Chinese edition of The Man Who Solved the Market, this book about Jim Simon.
Oh, Simon's the Renaissance technologies guy. Super secretive, almost like a myth.
Exactly. That connection makes you wonder, doesn't it? Inspiration, maybe, like following in the footsteps.
And get this, the author of that book, Gregory Zuckerman, he's now trying to get in touch with Liang Wenfeng for a piece on Deepseek, and he's having just as hard a time as he did with Simon's.
Yeah, history repeating itself. Maybe there's something about that level of focus, that, I don't know, intensity that breeds that kind of success.
Could be. But it's not all sunshine and roses. There's also this whole thing with High Flyer, some legal issues, employees, non-competes, all that.
Right. Adds a little shadow, doesn't it? Makes you think, did that cutthroat finance world, did it rub off on him? Is Deepseek, all this openness, is that like a reaction to that, maybe?
Good question.
Yeah.
And then 2023 hits. Everything changes. Liang Wenfeng, he announces that High Flyer, their focus is shifting. They're going all in on artificial general intelligence, AGI.
Wow, yeah. That's ambitious, to say the least. Most people think AGI is decades away, right?
Like he's saying, forget baby steps, we're going for the gold medal kind of thing. And he put his money where his mouth is, literally. Before the U.S. put those restrictions on AI chips, high flyer, they'd quietly bought up 10,000 NVIDIA A100 GPUs.
Whoa, seriously. That's a mountain of computing power. A smart move, too, considering what happened with the restrictions later. Like, he saw it coming.
Anticipating the game, yeah. And here's another thing. Deepseek. It's not funded by VCs, none of that. It's all high flyer Liang Wenfeng's own money.
Huh. No outside pressure, no impatient investors breathing down his neck. He can play the long game, focus on what he truly believes in.
Yeah, he's not playing by the Silicon Valley rulebook at all. Even his statements, about Chinese AI, he's not pulling punches, saying they need to move past just copying, become real innovators.
He sees Deepseek as leading the charge, pushing China onto that global stage, not just as a competitor, but as a thought leader, setting the trends.
Yeah, setting the agenda. And that vision, it's in everything Deepseek does. The way they're structured, flat hierarchy, open access to resources, those GPUs, all of it. It's about collaboration, exploration, not top-down orders.
Really different, especially for a Chinese company. It's like he's saying, I trust these people, let's give them the tools and get out of their way.
Creating a space for those bright minds, right? Solve the tough problems without all the corporate nonsense.
And speaking of those minds, the team at Deepseek, it's not what you'd expect. Not a bunch of industry veterans, big names, none of that. It's mostly young people, fresh grads, straight out of Chinese universities.
That's a big gamble, isn't it? Going with potential overexperience. What do you think? Is that a good move, or is he setting himself up for trouble?
It's risky, for sure, but also maybe brilliant. Shows he really believes in the talent there in China. It's like he's not just building a company, he's building a whole generation of AI experts.
A homegrown talent pool, completely flipping the script on the idea that all the best people are overseas. And it ties into this whole open source thing they've got going on. When everyone else is locking things down, Deepseek is sharing their work with the world.
Bold move, really bold, especially with all the worries about AI safety and all that. What's the thinking there, do you think? Is he just, incredibly altruistic?
I don't think so. More strategic, I'd say. He believes that a strong ecosystem, everyone sharing, that's how you get real breakthroughs long-term, not just building walls around your own stuff.
Different game entirely, yeah. Collaboration is the path to success, not competition. At least not in the traditional sense.
Except, of course, the U.S. chip restrictions, can't forget about those. Even though Deepseek is profitable, getting their hands on that top-tier hardware, well, that's a whole other battle.
Exactly. Hardware is everything in this game. Makes you wonder how this whole U.S.-China thing is going to play out in the long run. Who gets the chips, who gets the advantage?
And Deepseek's response to that, well, it's pretty remarkable. But that's a story for part 2.
Yeah, gotta leave him hanging a little, right? All right, so where were we? Yes. Deepseek's answer to the chip shortage.
Cliffhanger. Everyone's on the edge of their seat.
Right. Well, Deepseek V2, this is what they hit the market with, May 2024, and boom, everything changes.
Shockwaves through the whole AI world, price wars in China, everyone's scrambling to keep up.
And at the heart of it all, their MLA architecture. Stands for multi-head latent attention. Bit of a mouthful. But the key takeaway, think of it like this. MLA. It uses way less memory, so they can train these huge models, super powerful, but on way less hardware than everyone else.
Sneaky, right? Like, oh, you want to restrict our chips? Well, guess we'll just make them work 10 times harder.
Exactly. And it hits their rivals right where it hurts, the wallet. Deepseek, they can offer their APIs, what developers use to build stuff with AI. They offer those at a fraction of the cost.
Undercutting the competition, even Silicon Valley. That's got to sting.
Big time. And it's not just about being cheap, right? It's about making AI accessible, not just for the big players, but for anyone with an idea.
Democratizing AI, leveling the playing field.
Totally. And in China, man, it was like a bomb went off, prices plummeted, everyone from ByteDance to Tencent, even the giants like Baidu, Alibaba, they all had to slash prices to stay in the game.
Deepseek, they basically threw a grenade into the market and said, let's see who survives.
Brutal, but brilliant. And the craziest part, their coding model, built on that MLA thing, it actually outperformed open weight stuff like GPT-4 Turbo.
And GPT-4, that was the king of the hill, wasn't it? Just a year ago, everyone was raving about it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be cutting edge. Shows that Deepseek, they're not just messing around. Their ideas, they actually work, and work better than the competition.
David versus Goliath, except David brought, a laser cannon.
Right. And they didn't stop there. Deepseek R1, that's their next trick. 671 billion parameters, a reasoning model bigger than anything we've ever seen.
That's got to be pushing the limits, right?
How do they even build something that big?
Think about it. Just a few years ago, the biggest models, they were maybe 100 billion parameters. It was exponential growth. But here's the kicker. They trained it on just over 2,000 NVIDIA H800 GPUs. Budget, under $6 million.
Peanuts. Some companies spend that on office snacks.
Right. Shows how efficient they are, squeezing every ounce of performance out of every dollar. And guess what? They open sourced it. No way. That's huge. Why would they do that? Give away their crown jewels like that?
Because, remember, they play by different rules.
Yeah.
Open source, collaboration, that's their whole philosophy. And this, Deepseek R1, this is going to change everything. Researchers, developers, everyone now has access to this incredibly powerful tool.
Accelerates everything, right? No more everyone reinventing the wheel. And maybe, just maybe, it helps with some of the worries about AI safety, more transparency.
Could be. Well, the stock market, they definitely noticed. U.S. tech stocks, they took a nosedive after Deepseek R1 dropped. And Deepseek's app, #1 on the U.S. iOS App Store.
Ouch. That's gotta hurt Silicon Valley. Like, they're not just playing in their own backyard anymore. They're taking over the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, the world just woke up and realized, Deepseek, they're not a fluke. They're the real deal.
Behind it all, this quiet genius, Liang Wenfeng. But who is he? What makes him tick? That's the mystery we're going to try and unpack next.
Because as much as the tech is fascinating, the story of the man behind it all, that's just as compelling, wouldn't you say?
So, Liang Wenfeng and Deepseek kind of blown our minds a little bit, haven't they? I mean, we started in this tiny village, and now they're shaking up the whole AI world.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, where does innovation come from? What does it even look like? Because for a long time, Silicon Valley, they were the only game in town, right?
The kings of tech, setting all the rules. But Deepseek, this whole open source thing, the focus on like deep research, not just the next shiny product, it's a totally different playbook.
Yeah, it's almost like, are they even playing the same game? Silicon Valley, it's all about speed, disruption, be the biggest, the fastest. Deepseek, they're playing the long game, thinking generations ahead almost.
And people are noticing, right? It's not just the tech world, researchers, even governments, starting to ask, hey, maybe locking everything up isn't the best way.
This whole open source AI movement, it's gaining momentum. The idea that, hey, if we all work together, share what we learn, maybe we actually get to the good stuff faster.
And safer, potentially, right?
Yeah.
More eyes on the problem, more people thinking about the ethics of it all.
Right. And this all ties into that bigger question, doesn't it? China, where do they fit in all this? Because for a long time, they were the copycats, playing catch up to the West.
Yeah, but Deepseek, they're changing that narrative. They're not just building products, they're building a whole ecosystem. It's like a distinctly Chinese way of doing AI, and they're not asking permission anymore.
Yeah, they're leading, setting the agenda. It's a sign, isn't it? China, they're not content to be followers anymore.
It's not all smooth sailing, though, right? We talked about the chip restrictions, the U.S. trying to slow them down, and then there's that whole question of AI safety, making sure this stuff doesn't get out of hand.
Big questions, and honestly, no one has all the answers yet. This is uncharted territory for everyone.
So what have we learned? I think the biggest takeaway is the future of AI, it's not written in stone. There are different paths, different ways of doing things, and Deepseek, they're proof of that.
And China, they're a major player now, a leader. Not just copying anymore, but truly innovating. That's a game changer for everyone.
And lastly, AI. It's not just a tech problem, it's a human problem. We got to talk about it, figure out the ethics, make sure it benefits all of us, not just a select few.
Liang Wenfeng and Deepseek, they've given us a lot to chew on, that's for sure. Challenge the status quo, push the limits, started a conversation that needs to happen.
It's inspiring, honestly. It shows what's possible when you, when you think differently, work together, and really focus on the long game.
Yeah, it's a reminder that sometimes the quiet ones, the ones who aren't shouting from the rooftops, they're the ones changing the world.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.